Hi, my name is Tom Sokolowski. I'm a nutritional therapist and a functional medicine practitioner. This is the first of two videos in which I'd like to talk about hormesis. So hormesis is a process whereby a short-term mild stressor, which could be a small dose of a toxin, produces a favourable response in the body due to adaptive protective mechanisms. If you have too much of the stressor or toxin, that will be counterproductive. So in my previous video I spoke about exercise and how exercise creates some oxidative stress in the body, and this results in the increase in the production of antioxidant enzymes, and that provides some of the benefits of exercise. If you overdo the exercise, however, you will just deplete your antioxidants and overwhelm your antioxidant defense system. So this dose-dependent response is one of the hallmarks of hormesis. I also spoke about the benefits of eating plants that contain polyphenols, which are actually toxins created by the plants to fight pathogens and to protect them from environmental stressors like ultraviolet light and temperature extremes. So how does hormesis work? Well, the stressor tends to have a pro-oxidant effect, and the oxidation it causes activates transcription factors. The job of a transcription factor is to turn on certain genes, and in this case it will turn on genes that produce proteins that promote health benefits and are protective, such as detoxification enzymes and antioxidant enzymes and heat shock proteins and neurotrophic factors, amongst others. So for example, toxins like curcumin from turmeric or glucosinolates from cruciferous vegetables stimulate a transcription factor known as NRF2, that's NRF2. So NRF2 then turns on various genes that increase production of glutathione, of antioxidant enzymes like glutathione S-transferase and glutathione peroxidase and superoxide dismutase and catalase. It increases the production of detoxification enzymes and heat shock protein enzymes that protect against the damaging effects of glycation, which is when sugar binds to protein, and it also increases the production of ferritin. Now, ferritin is important because it binds with iron, and in the presence of oxidative stress, unbound iron creates even more oxidative damage. So all of these mechanisms are kicked into place by activating NRF2 as a result of the toxins from curcumin, from turmeric, or from glucosinolates from cruciferous vegetables. Now, polyphenols also have the effect of increasing the activity of sirtuin-1 enzymes, which are associated with longevity. And this is the same mechanism that is stimulated by caloric restriction, which is therefore also a hormetic effect. And hormesis tends to promote longevity and reduce aging. Then there's also the concept of Zeno Hormesis. So the polyphenols in plants are produced not only in response to pathogens but environmental stressors like temperature extremes and ultraviolet light. So when we as humans consume these plants, we receive this information about the environment. If it's very rich in polyphenols, there may be some environmental stressors which may affect us directly or which may affect the food supply. So this promotes a protective adaptive response in us. So you can see why it's called Zeno Hormesis, Zeno meaning foreign or other, because the initial stressor, the initial stimulus, is in another organism that we then eat to benefit from. Now, fasting and intermittent fasting have a hormetic effect and thus benefit you. So I recommend for longevity and weight loss, and to reduce your risk of neurodegenerative conditions like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's disease, to at the very least fast every night, overnight, for 12 to 13 hours. We evolved to survive during periods of hunger, and we evolved needing to exert ourselves physically to obtain food and in order to survive in general. So it's been hypothesised that one of the reasons for the current epidemic of chronic disease, and especially type 2 diabetes, obesity and metabolic syndrome, is the 24-hour availability of food, and also the lack of the need to exercise or to exert yourself physically to obtain that food. We evolved during eras in which there would be periods of food scarcity. So we evolved a survival instinct to make us crave high-calorie foods and to hold on to those calories as fat for times of need. So this leads to some interesting paradoxes, because it could be argued that our survival instinct is killing us in the environment of 24-hour caloric abundance. You could say that the difficulties we are facing health-wise are related to the ease we are finding in obtaining food with the rise of convenience stores. And yet, if convenience and the avoidance of stressors is one of the golden goals of modern life, we tend to plunge headlong into very stressful careers to provide us with these conveniences. So that's another paradox, because we stress out in order to avoid stressors. It's one of the fundamental tenets of Buddhism that running away from and avoiding pain, and we could say stressors or inconvenience, leads to suffering. So it's interesting for me to see this at a crude biophysical, biochemical level. Now, we could say that disease has two main causes. So the first cause of disease is not enough of these stresses that benefit us because we evolved to deal with them, such as going periods without food, exercise, and the toxins that come from plant foods like glucosinolates from cruciferous vegetables such as Brussels sprouts, broccoli, cauliflower and cabbage. And the second cause of disease is too much of other stressors, or the same stresses in the case of exercise, because when you overdo exercise chronically, that will have a negative effect. But other stresses could be work stress or psychological stress, or the stress of indulging in addictive substances like alcohol and processed foods, or the stress could be being overwhelmed with environmental toxins. And that's interesting because many of these environmental toxins are byproducts from the attempts to make life more convenient and pain-free. Now, it's worth mentioning here that work stress can actually have some positive health outcomes, provided your work aligns with a deeper sense of purpose. And this is really clearly explained by Kelly McGonigal in her fascinating TED Talk, How to Make Stress Your Friend, which I've linked in below, so please watch that because it shows some very interesting research. Now, epidemiological evidence shows quite a strong association between regular, challenging intellectual activity and reduced risk of Alzheimer's disease. So what might be going on here? Well, your active nerve cells, i.e. neurons, require a lot of energy, and so they are very rich in mitochondria. The mitochondria generate ATP, which is your body's way of storing usable energy. However, generating ATP in the mitochondria also generates free radicals, i.e. oxidative stress. And this is one of the stressors faced by neurons when you engage in challenging intellectual activity. Another such stressor is the repeated calcium influx into the neuron. So your body responds to these stressors by increasing heat shock protein and neurotrophic factors. So we can see that intellectual activity has a hormetic effect, which may explain the association with reduced risk of Alzheimer's disease. Temperature extremes also have a hormetic effect. So a sauna benefits you not just by removing toxins from your body, but also by increasing the production of heat shock protein, which is associated with longevity. A cold plunge, on the other hand, will increase antioxidant production, and if you shiver as a result of the cold, then you'll actually be increasing the production of brown fat, which is good fat because it helps you burn more calories. Now, the question for some people will be, is alcohol hormetic? Or perhaps is it the resveratrol and phytochemicals in red wine, or to a lesser extent the phytochemicals in beer that may provide some benefit? So the short answer is that a daily small glass of red wine may benefit and may reduce mortality. And that's more likely to be due to the polyphenols such as resveratrol rather than to the alcohol. However, firstly, the data is not very clear due to confounding factors such as diet, smoking, lifestyle habits. And secondly, the benefits are likely to be realised in the context of a diet that is rich in a wide variety of polyphenols that then have a synergistic effect. Thirdly, if you have a serious chronic condition such as chronic fatigue syndrome or ME, you are likely to be intolerant to even the smallest quantity of alcohol. And fourth, if you are at high risk of breast cancer, say you've already had breast cancer once, or if there's a lot of breast cancer in your family, then you can reduce your risk by cutting out alcohol altogether. It has been speculated that alcohol may increase the absorption of resveratrol from red wine. However, this review looks at many studies in which the benefits are apparent even from eating red grapes and unfermented red grape products. Interestingly, however, tetrahydrocannabinol, THC, the main psychoactive ingredient of cannabis, which is associated with poor short-term memory, does actually have a neuroprotective effect at low doses. However, the doses to protect your brain would need to be very low and are probably much lower than what would be used recreationally. So it seems that the benefits would come from a very low dose over a long period of time. In my next video, I will give more practical advice on how to benefit from hormesis. Thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video.